Can I hit the light?
I want people to look in my eyes when I say this. All right? I want you to see, dear Lord, I need to be rescued. No one can get done except you. Please tell me to test this through. I did my best too, as I could, as I should. Knock on wood, then I'm good, then I'm hood. But he knows my heart. And what grows from the start, glows in the dark. Knows from the start, I was chosen this part. When you smart, won't always bite, but knows from the bark. Rose from the dark, caught a glimpse of the light. Now I can't live without it, man. This ain't right for me. Give it to Jesus, cause it ain't my fight. Wanna make it to the light, please make it alright. There ain't nobody but you taking my life, cause I know not many do make it through the fight, but there's still a many who walk with your grace, cause I know plenty who walk with your face in the minds and the hearts, with the word on their lips, but still straight from the herd. You heard how it gets. If the word is a gift that'll break in the yoke strong, hold the bar down to a third of its strength. When you figure in the name of Jesus, you're free indeed. All you need is faith the size of a mustard seed. All things are possible through Christ who strengthens me. It's my destiny to be the best I can be, to give you the best of me. And now, no such thing as the rest of me, is you selfishly gave me the recipe, which is the word in the book, right here the whole time. I done did the whole 9 4 times, probably more times. I kind of lost track. And every time I got lost, crossed right back. They don't understand how I get lost like that. I learn like this, you get taught like that.
Bam! Oh, what's going on? It's DeAndre Official. You're watching Revolutionize the Culture TV. We just had our first episode of Mental Check-ins with Alana Moore. She is a licensed therapist and the author of the incredible book, ADHD is My Superpower. Link in the description. We're going to be doing this every second and fourth Saturday right there on IG Live. Please join us. Probably the dopest live that I've ever been a part of. We talked about the cycle of depression. And on the brink of us losing our beloved DMX, I think this is a perfect time to talk about the things that plague us that we hide in the dark. So after you watch this, I want this to inspire you to reach out to community. Follow us on Instagram. Do whatever it takes to find community so that you don't have to struggle with these things alone. And then the second thing that I need you to do is stop playing and hit the subscribe button. And enjoy. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing this morning?
Good. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little late. I woke up a little later than I should have.
See, sometimes 8 o'clock. Ooh. But it's okay. You made it. You made it. I said sometimes 8 o'clock, but I said you made it though. That's good.
I know, man. I'm up here like choosing all these early times. Got you waking up early, man. I woke up late. I'm like, dang. Yeah, I'm here. So you can still, you know what I'm saying? I still want you to give it all you got. I did leave my tissue in the house, but you know what I'm saying? Let's still go hard. I did leave my tissue. I meant to bring it. It's all good though. All right. So what I'm hoping really this turns into eventually as we move forward is still our discussions, but more engagement as we move forward. You know, I want people to hop in. Good morning, Jay McKinney. You guys, anybody who hops in, you can ask questions. Please hit the question box, ask questions. We're ready to, try to help you guys with whatever it is that you're going through. We're gonna see if we can help you guys out. So let's can we breathe first real quick and I pray us in. All right. So on the count of 3, let's just do one deeper. No, let's do 2. On the count of 3, let's go ahead and inhale. 1, 2, 3. All right. Reason why we breathe in because it relaxes your mind. It's early in the morning. I believe you need that quickly. So let's go ahead and take another deep breath on the count of 3. This time I want you to inhale slowly, exhale slowly. And as you exhale, I just want you to thank God for waking you up this morning. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And let's sit in silence just for a moment. Father, thank you so much for waking us up this morning. Thank you for the subject matter that you've given us to talk about. Father, I'm asking that the Holy Spirit take over the atmosphere. Lord, you place revelation inside of our hearts and place truth on our lips so that whatever is spoken about can actually have impact on the people that are listening. We ask that, you know, whatever has been hidden inside of people's lives are able to be brought out into the light through this conversation. And we're asking that people will be healed. I ask all this in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So you know, it's like, it's crazy because we pre-planned this, and then DMX dies yesterday, you know, and like,
Yeah. Rest in peace.
yeah, man, it's crazy, man, because like it hit me. They didn't start sinking in until like later on in the day, and then
Yeah.
I compounded my thoughts and feelings about it because I ended up watching the United States versus Billie Holiday. Have you seen that?
I haven't. I have
Okay.
not. Mm-mm.
Yeah. If you do you kind of know about Billie Holiday's lifestyle or a little bit of history about Billie Holiday? So I'll just say this, so I won't give away the movie for anybody that hops in. But I mean, it's public knowledge, but she was a heroin addict, and she passed away from you know, liver failure and stuff like that. So it wasn't quite OD, but it was because of, you know what I'm saying, the stuff that she had been doing to her system.
Mm-hmm.
So like DMX dies, and I watched that, and I don't know if that was the best thing to do do that on the same day, because it did have me doing a whole lot of thinking, you know, like it compounded a lot of thoughts and feelings. I talked to some friends about like how they felt about it.
Yeah.
You know, so I my heart is still kind of heavy, like, because of that, but I feel like God kind of did this in his timing, you know what I mean, like for a reason. So my well, let's start there. Like, what was your reaction to DMX when DMX passed?
My heart breaks for things like that. I mean, really breaks, because, you know, he was just in a lot of pain. And when I see that, when I see the circumstance of his passing, I just see that he was in pain. You know what I mean? And I wonder, when I hear things like that, I always wonder, like, what was their outlet? You know, what is it that they were thinking or going through when they decided to make that decision? It's not any judgment that I ever have about it. It's more of like a concern, you know, because there's a lot more people that deal with it too, you know, and I just wonder what was he facing? What was he dealing with, you know, and who was he talking to? Was he talking to anybody? You know, what was he feeling in that moment? Because it breaks my heart, you know, for me to hear that, you know, he could have been so, and I know I heard that he had a history of doing that.
Yeah.
So it's just, my mind always goes to like, why, you know, the why.
Yeah.
And I just, my heart just goes out to that, and it makes me, that I've worked with people in recovery, and it's really difficult because you have so much hope for them, you create a space for them, and the healing starts beginning, you know, but sometimes they go to an environment that there's something that triggers them, and they go right back into the cycle of addiction, which is a vicious cycle, you know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes it's not even just a emotional or mental reliance on something. There's like your physical reliance, like your body is like relying on that thing because it's so used to tapping into that as an outlet, you know, or even as just like a regular, it becomes normalized, you know, to your body and to your mind. So I just think about that, you know, and I just wonder how it started, what he was dealing with. And I was going to go back and watch like a bunch of interviews, go look at a bunch of information. Yeah. I don't know if that's the best, like you said, but I just kind of wanted to just see, you know what I mean?
Hey,
so.
That's what happened with Billie Holiday. Like, I went back and I was like, oh snap! I started reading stuff and I was like, dang man, like what was going on? You know? Yeah, I thought about that the same way. Like, dang man, and I know he had like people who cared about him. You know what I'm saying? But you know, from my perspective, the care is different. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a celebrity. So that kind of care ain't like the close. I don't know who's close. You know what I mean? I don't know who was really close that he had in his life. And so like the other thing about like even the Billie Holiday situation, because even though depression and we're talking about depression, but I mean addiction and depression ain't the same thing. Oh, but they're really close to each other. You know, they live right around the corner.
Exactly.
And you know, one of the things that I watched this TED talk after I watched the Billie Holiday movie, and then this guy was kind of talking about it's this guy who wrote a book about the war on drugs, and he was saying that he believes that the cure to a drug addict is not sobriety, but it's connection. He was like, it's the because it's the loneliness that keeps them coming back. You know what I mean? So all right. So now, all right, me, right? I started. I think I started dealing with depression. I think hard, maybe high school. You know, but I mean, everybody was probably depressed in high school. You know, high school is a depressive place, man.
Ooh, identity crisis. Yeah. Yes.
It is. And like, I realized now that I'm older, like that really be your whole world. Like whatever goes down, that's everything. You know. So yeah, I think that's when it hit me the hardest. Was high school, and I even got to one point in my life where I wrote a fully detailed suicide note. I ended up later on turning that into a song that no one will ever hear because it still ended up really dark. But that's music was one of my outlets already, you know. So that was an outlet that I had when I was young. But when depression hit early, I've always kind of had like this tendency to want to be alone. Like I don't know if that's naturally being an introvert or if it's just, you know, I don't know. But I kind of have like Go ahead.
You were saying naturally being an introvert or like wanting to isolate because you really don't like want to be around other people. Yeah, but my one question really quickly was when you were saying that you wrote that note and stuff, my curiosity is like, because I've heard other artists that I know say, oh, I wrote this really dark song and I don't want to show anybody because it's in a specific place. So really quickly, I just want to know like what place were you in? I mean, like what led you to writing that and to thinking that way at that particular time?
You know, I remember so like and this is a great question because you know the root of the depression is probably a life learning journey for somebody to try to figure out, you know. The only really things that I remember is like I had this weird relationship with loneliness. You know what I'm saying? Like I really like to be isolated. I like to be alone. And I think I remember kind of writing that song. This was kind of during the time where I started to really kind of realize what the relationship was between me and my dad. I wasn't raised by my dad. And so like, you know, when you're a kid and you don't have a parent, a lot of times you still kind of grow with hope. Like you don't really understand, you know what I'm saying, what it is. So you get to high school. I got to high school. I was like, oh, I get it. You ain't here. You know what I'm saying? Right. Yeah. So like that's when I remember it started to hit me because that's when I kind of became angry. I really wasn't an angry kid like until probably high school was when I really started lashing out, fighting, and joining gangs and stuff. All that stuff kind of like all happened at once. Like it was a whirlwind during that time. And also I think I used to have dreams of me getting killed and stuff like that. So I used to kind of think like, you know, it's like this. those dreams kind of almost build like a sense of unworthiness inside of you. You know what I'm saying? You kind of feel like that's your fate, like that might happen. You know what I mean? So I think that is, and I think, you know, even answering that right now, I realize how often I still drift in and out of like that feeling of unworthiness. You know what I'm saying? Like that still comes every once in a while of just feeling like you don't really have a purpose to be. You know what I'm saying? Like you feel insignificant. So I would say that that's probably, if I were to try to articulate depression in more than one word, I would probably say for me, it's that feeling of unworthiness. You know what I'm saying? And that it pops up sometimes. And some mornings, you know what I'm saying, I wake up and it's just like the day sucks, and it hasn't really sucked yet.
Right. It's like, what do you want to do today? Yeah, like, do I really want to go through this day?
Yeah.
Do you ever ask yourself something that I'm practicing, having people ask themselves, and something I'm asking people is like, when you feel that way, what do you know what you need in that moment? Like if you feel unworthy or you're having a bad day, because each day we might need something different. You might need interaction with somebody. You might need to get outside. You might need to write music. Whatever it is, like when you're feeling that way, if you were to ask yourself, like, what do I need right now? Like if I could have this thing, I would feel so much better. Like, are you able to know what that is that you need when you're feeling that way?
You know, here's the funny thing about it. I feel like on those days, the stuff that I be needing, I don't want it. like I be feeling like I know what I like. All right, so for example, some of those days, it's just because like I wake up, and most of my days I wake up pretty early, and it's like I go pray. Like I go to an isolated place and I pray. And and this ain't even like me trying to preach or being religious, but real talk, when I don't do that, I can feel the difference. You know what I'm saying? I can feel the difference in my day for real if I don't do that. So sometimes I'll be thinking to myself like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Just this is that's what I need to go do. But I don't be wanting to. I be like, dang, I don't want to. All right, so I know I studied this when I started studying emotional intelligence, and I started to see like, okay, what tends to happen to me in those moments is that like when it's just like how your dopamine kicks off when you get excited, right? You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing happens when you're depressed. That feeling is so familiar to me that when I feel it, even though there's a part of me that feels like, okay, you need to get rid of this, just for basically you just need to go about your day, you know? and but at the same time, it feels like me. It's a weird thing to say, but it feels so comfortable. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is me. I'm really me when I'm depressed. Dang, I said that out loud. But that's how I feel.
But you are. I mean, and like, it's hard because you don't want to like associate yourself with like that part of you. You don't want to associate with that, because I'm the same way. I'm like, no, like people know me to be an encourager. You know, I'm a mother, I'm a therapist. Like I can't feel this way, or like it doesn't feel good to feel this way. That I feel this way a lot because I'm the same way as you, where it's like this feeling is happening a little too often, you know, and it's like doesn't feel good. And then like you said, you don't, so I think I used the wrong word earlier. It's not what do you need, it's kind of like what do you want in that moment. Sometimes we can't even identify what we want. It's like I don't know, I just feel really low. And sometimes it's insignificant, you know, and it's like, why, Lord? But the things that you should be doing, like you said, you set your tone right, you pray, things like that. Same with me. Like for me, I'm like, I need a good breakfast, I need to get outside for the day. And some days I don't feel like going outside. Like I don't want to do that, you know what I mean? But then I feel terrible because I have different roles, like roles as a mother, like I said, a therapist. And when I don't feel present, it feels horrible. But then I have to normalize it and say, I'm a human, and whatever is affecting me chemically or whatever's going on in my spirit, it's like, they are all facing that too. Like I deal with people that deal with that 24/7, you know, very often. So it's okay that I feel like that today. I just need to figure out like, what am I going to do about it? And what I learned is I can't wait until I want to feel, I can't wait until I feel like doing something to do it. Like if I wait, it'll never happen. And I always do that. Like days that I feel really low, I'm like, the feeling of me wanting to go outside is just not going to come. You know, the feeling of me wanting to exercise is not going to come. Like I know it's not going to come. I can't wait on it. And if I do, then I'm going to procrastinate and I'm just going to stay in bed all day because that's what happens, you know?
Because waiting on the feeling to feel like,
it's like, hey, you know what? Like I'm waiting, you know, for God to just shift my spirit, which is another thing, too. I know I'm saying a lot, but another thing is like for Christians, you know what I mean? I think there's a misconception that like, if you feel that way, if you have God, if you pray to God and everything like that, you'll be freed of it. I agree that he is going to break that cycle and to free you of that, but that doesn't happen immediately or overnight.
No,
you
not at all.
You are going to endure days where you just don't feel good. And you're going to ask God, why? Like, why have I felt this way for so long? But I learned to just like, if I don't feel like going outside, I have to push myself. And no matter how tired I am, exhausted, irritated, I have to do what I know helps my spirit. Even the gospel music, like, or good music in general, like I need to feel my spirit with the right things. But for me, it's gospel. So I have to feel my spirit with the right things, even if I do not feel like it. And that usually, me forcing myself to do that brings me to a better peace. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's a little bit.
Yeah, I think also and this sucks, but like talking to people helps too. But I'm not gonna lie, like the reason why, you know what I'm saying, I push connection so much is because I freaking suck at it. I suck at reaching out like as soon as I feel like I'm depressed. Like, I never think to myself, you know what, I'm feeling down. Maybe I should talk to a friend. You know, that never crosses my mind.
It's an introvert. It's an introvert. You just want to deal with stuff on your own. I get it.
It never crosses my mind, you know? And then I also have gone into these modes. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. You're going into these modes where I've kind of read about this too. I don't have a whole lot of research on it, but I'm kind of familiar with the term, which is like high functioning depression, where like I can go through the day, get work done, but I still feel like trash on the inside. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm pushing and you can't tell, but I feel like trash on the inside.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it stinks. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's hard. Well, for me, it's hard because I'll be present with somebody and I'll be like, you just helped me so much, but I'm feeling like trash, you know? So I'm like, you know, like, dang, you know what I mean? Like, I wish I felt like what I probably should feel in this moment, which is amazing. You know what I mean? But like, I feel like trash, like you said. Me, on the other end, I'm the opposite of you, by the way. I have a really hard time being by myself. Like, I want to talk to somebody almost 24/7. But that was the codependency. I said, girl, break that cycle, deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, push yourself to self-love. I have a hard time. We are very opposite. Like what you said, like, you're like, I like to move, be by myself. I'm like, that scares me. So I just like, I actually have to learn what you do, you know, a little bit more to say like, let me just go be with God by myself because I'm constantly, you know, absorbing energy. Even when I want to talk to somebody, I'm absorbing somebody else's energy. And it's like, my thing is I actually need to isolate from people to actually get myself to a mental space of like calm. Mm-hmm. And you sounds like you need to push yourself a little bit more to talk to somebody because I'm telling you, it's great. Like it's a healthy outlet. It's awesome. But what introverts, I'm not generalizing, but I guess I am generalizing most of the time. Most of the time, introverts keep a lot of things to themselves. You know what I mean? They don't bother anybody. They're not used to verbalizing how they feel. And that seems like you have to push yourself to ask for help, to ask for an ear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I literally get irritated by the question of how you doing or are you all right? You know what I'm saying? Like that mess annoys me. I remember even early on in my marriage, like it never turned into a big problem because we didn't have like huge arguments behind it. But like early on in my marriage, I remember that my wife, I used to frustrate the mess out of my wife because if I'm feeling like that, bro, I can't take any kind of quick advice. You know what I'm saying? Like if you start asking me questions and then you start saying things that sound like really quick solutions, bro, I got a list of problems to combat that with. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm coming back. And my wife, she was just like, all right, you know what? Forget it. Just go be by yourself, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just I'm done. um, but I have noticed though, you know what I'm saying, and I think that this also is a testament to her because I think that a lot of times, like when she counsels me slowly, you know what I'm saying, like if she asks one question and then just kind of like sit there in the silence and kind of let me like try to articulate it or figure it out. It's almost like if it's happening quickly, like if my defense mechanism is high, you know what I'm saying? But if she goes, yeah. So if you go slow, I've noticed that does help me, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't realize that you don't realize that you don't know how to say how you feel, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I used to just be like, man, it'd be some days she'll ask me and I just be like, I don't know. And it's like, oh, what did something happen? No, I don't know. I feel like this. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's like I can't figure it out because I can't pinpoint.
Yes.
Yeah, and I can't pinpoint an exact like connection to why I feel this way. So you know, I'd be like, man, I don't know.
You really don't. You're like, I don't know, and I don't know how to explain what I'm feeling. But see, I don't know if she's an extrovert or not, but this might be helpful in relationships. I'm so glad that you guys are working to meet each other's like language of communication and love and things like that, because me on the other end, I need to work on that. It makes me anxious when people don't know, like when I'm asking questions and I'm like, well, what's going on with you? Because I have a tendency to want to fix and to help. And a lot of extroverts are like that too, where it's like, I want to help you. I want to see.
Yeah, she's like that. She's like that. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, okay, you can stop talking now. Like, you can stop trying now.
Oh my gosh, I like that you're able to identify that. And then just going back to like you, when you feel those days and knowing how you are, do you at least, if you don't want to talk to anybody, do you at least like try to write it down? Because you're into music and you do music. So I mean, you could write it in the form of lyrics, you could write it in the form of poetry, you could even just write it just to write down, like, you know what I mean? And it doesn't even have to make sense. The point is it's just coming out, you know what I mean? And if you don't want it to come out verbally because it's uncomfortable for you, have you tried like just writing?
I've had days where I've tried it, but I never made it like consistent for me. But and it's crazy. It's one of those things again, right? It's almost like in your therapist, and you can be honest with me if you want. You don't have to say it if you don't want to. It's like, and I've seen it because I've only seen it on movies. You're probably one of the only therapists I know in person. So it's like the people who know all the tools, but you avoid them even though you know them. You know what I'm saying? Like you know every tool in the book, and you sit there avoiding all of them. Yeah, like literally every mental solution to start going through my head, and I'd be like, well, I could do that. Well, I'm not finna do that. Okay, I could. Well, I'm not finna do that. Because it makes you lazy too. Like depression makes you lazy. Like you don't do nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So I am going to, but I have noticed like if I just decide to just write down just how I feel, then it has worked because I've used it as exercises for other people. You know what I'm saying? So I know it works, and I've done it. But it's minimum. I use it minimally. You know what I'm saying? But I know it works. You know. So let's talk about this thing because you brought up outlets. All right. So, If anybody, okay, somebody said writing helps them. Okay, yeah, it's real. It helps. It does help.
Let me just make a comment on that really, really quick. So you're very right. I'm gonna just be transparent too. I took so much stuff and I don't be doing it. Like I be feeling so bad. I'm like, how come I know exactly what to do, but I don't be doing it? Why am I feeling this way? How come I'm not writing? How come I'm not exercising? You know? However, like when you the person that said writing helps it when you actually do it, it really does help. So you have to think it's your decision making that's causing and preventing you from feeling a little bit better. Because yeah, depression does make us feel that way straight up. You know what I mean? Like I'm telling you, I have had days in the bed, and I do not like to admit that at all. But I have had days where I just don't want to get up, you know, or I don't want to give my energy to anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's true. Depression does make you lazy. However, we know what really helps, like writing. Like when I actually do it, I'm like, this feels so much better. Why don't I pour myself more into this? You know what I mean? Or why don't I work out a little bit more? But I just wanted to make a point at that. Like depression, you're not going to feel like doing anything. However, if you keep not doing anything, you're preventing yourself from feeling a little bit better on that day. So, but go ahead. What you were saying about the outlet.
Okay, so yeah, I completely agree with you. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that same mental exercise of trying to exercise. You know what I'm saying? Of trying to like change diet, all those things. It's almost like that same mental process of saying, even though I don't feel like it, I need to push through it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think, and it's so funny because like all those tools, I'd be like, I've used them, you know, twice, 3 times. So I know they work, but I just can't do it every time for some reason. Right? So I'll let y'all know something. You know what I'm saying? Everybody who's listening, that even the people with the tools, they struggle. It's still.
I mean, let's be real. You know what I mean? It's true. It's true. We feel you.
So all right, let me say. All right, so here's another thing. All right, outlets, man. And so I gotta be completely honest to for this to really work. All right, so my outlets when I was younger, so I was a kid that kind of I had a single mom, right, growing up, and nothing but sisters, right? So I like lived in my room. You know what I'm saying? Like I was in my room. You know what I'm saying? All day. I don't know what age that started at. You know what I'm saying? But I know like kind of like the earliest I can remember. Like I'd be in my room. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times like I used to even feel kind of ostracized from the rest of my family. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like I thought a little bit differently. Then I'm the only boy. You know what I'm saying? So that also means something. So like I would be alone a lot. So and then when I wasn't alone, I was in the streets. You know what I'm saying? I was committing crimes or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like I was doing that, and then when I come home, I run straight to my room. I'm by myself. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying that to say like family wasn't an outlet. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like I was going to my mom and telling her how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't do that at all. So one of my outlets was, I think my earliest one was probably porn. It started there. And then drugs and alcohol, right? So some of the stuff that I did back then, I've done, you know, marijuana, alcohol, and when we were younger, this is I think it's still popular with some people, but promethazine, have you heard of that? The purple syrup. I used to drink. I grew up in the South, man, so that's do that a lot, right? So those were my outlets growing up. I mean, I think all that probably started at 2. I don't know what age I started drinking, but I know porn, we started at 12. You know what I'm saying? Like around the same age. We maybe 14, but like early. You know, and that mess carried with me all my life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it started at 12, and it doesn't really go away. You know what I'm saying? Like it still stays right there as an outlet. But the other thing that I've noticed, once again, you know, kind of like how you said earlier, like kind of like the healthiness of being alone, is that that's like the weird relationship I have with my loneliness, because I have gotten great revelation from being alone. You know what I'm saying? I've like my peace really comes from God when I'm alone, you know?
Right.
But also, you know what I'm saying? It's probably some of the most destructive moments, you know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
my thoughts ain't always cool, you know? Well, I'm not always cool with my thoughts, right? And when you have stuff like I'll start with porn. Porn makes me feel like, when I watch porn, I feel like nothing else matters in the world. Like I don't be thinking about nothing else, you know what I'm saying, in that moment. And so kind of tell me, like, what do you think is kind of going on with the brain when you're kind of chasing an unhealthy outlet? You know what I'm saying? Like what does it mean to kind of chase these unhealthy outlets?
Well, I can answer it from a mental health sense and a spiritual sense, but honestly, when you're forming a habit. So there's something, you have a release, like with porn, for example, you have a release, you know what I mean? And you get adrenaline from it, a satisfaction from it, you know what I mean? Although you tap back into your rational mind when the habit is done and you say, "Ooh, like that wasn't good." You know what I mean? You have like a conviction about it, but in that moment, like you said, it's just like, this makes me feel good. You know what I mean? Just like drinking. I've dealt with a lot of people in recovery. They're like, drinking physically feels good in the moment, but then after it makes them feel really bad. But in that moment,
let me say this real quick. I think for me, right, porn and alcohol are the two easiest. I mean, it is the quickest like climb up and fall down off a mountain. Like literally, it feels cool in the moment, and then as soon as you're done, you feel right off. That's like all that shame just hits like immediately. Especially with alcohol, because you feel that mess physically. You're like, oh no, why did I do this?
Exactly. And so, but you created a habit. So now your body has a reliance of like let's say you watch porn, people that watch porn every day, or you have a hard time with that. Your body is like, ooh, it's getting to that time. You know what I mean? Like getting to that time. You start feeling sensations or whatever, because your body is so used to getting that release at that, like, and pay attention to the times that you fall into these habits too, because you have created a routine for yourself. Just like parents that have kids, you create a routine for them so that they're used to living and breathing and being in that routine. When you're going into a habit, you are creating, you know, a reliance on like, okay, this is routine, this is habit, this is something I got to do, I have to do. You know what I mean?
I feel like you have to do it, huh? Yeah.
You feel like you have to do it. Your mind is telling you, because you built such a reliance on doing it as a release. You know what I mean? But something that Mark said about, you know, it is a lot harder to get rid of habits. You know what I mean? They're really hard to break, but they're easy to fall into, but they're hard to break.
Yeah.
It's true. Because you have to unlearn that behavior. Like, you know what I mean? And do you really want to? No, because your body's sensation is like, nah, like, come on, we've been on this for years. You know what I mean? But you are telling your body, no more of the alcohol, no more of the weed, no more of the porn, you know, and you have to like cut that. But you're gonna feel like a withdrawal feeling, and don't feel bad for that, because your body has just created a reliance on that. But your mindset has to shift and be like, I want to pour myself into this. You have to be intentional about what you want to replace that with, but it can be very difficult if you do not have like a set like intentionality on what you want to replace that bad habit with.
Yeah,
that's probably where it comes from, with why people stay in those cycles or whatever.
And I think also like different from porn, um we like it, weed is one of the most, and I hope everybody that's listening that smokes, I want you to think about this. Well, I kind of want to read, it's a few comments. I had to focus on my why. Yeah, to start breaking my habits, still not easy. It's difficult when you remember why. Bad habits are hard to break because they please the flesh, definitely. The thought of not having those options scares me because it would be a whole new reality. Whew.
That's
Yeah, man.
real.
And
That's
so
real.
one of the thoughts that I had, right? So one of the thoughts that I had during the when I first saw DMX, right? Was like it was like, Dre, you really have to learn how to just be cool with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like love your reality. Like no matter how dark it gets, you know what I'm saying? You gotta love your reality. You can't keep choosing things to escape. You know what I'm saying? You can't run away from it. And so like we, for example, when I was younger, we was like it's still a coping mechanism. It's one of the, to me it's one of the trickiest drugs, right? It's one of the trickiest ones because people don't necessarily OD from it, right? So if you met any stoners before, then they would easily tell you that they're not addicted, right? It's like, oh, I'm not addicted. You know what I'm saying? I smoke it every day, but I'm not addicted. Right? It's kind of like that's kind of like how you feel about it. Yeah, I'm high all the time, but I'm not addicted to it. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
It's weird because like even though you seem like you don't feel a physical dependency, like you do, you know what I'm saying? You do. There is like I've noticed, you know what I'm saying, when it comes down to weed smoking, which is like kind of different from porn, even though like porn becomes mental and physical, weed is different because we kind of, it doesn't, this is for me, right? Because I feel like everybody has different brain chemistry, so it's probably different for different people. But for me, like, weed doesn't make me not think about anything. It makes me think about everything, but it changes my emotional reaction to everything, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can, the same problem that could piss me off when I'm sober, I can get high and think about that same problem. It's funny now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, exactly.
right. I can laugh at it now. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of, it's a different kind of dependency because I it makes you feel like you're not running away, but you are. You know what I'm saying? Like because even though you are still thinking about the problem, you're not processing it the same way. You know what I'm saying?
You're not.
And I remember one of my first revelations I had about weed, like when God first started getting on me about it, was prayer, right? He was saying that like when you high, you don't pray the same, you know what I'm saying? Or you're not praying at all. Or you sometimes you're replacing one for the other, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's because like when you high, you don't really feel the heaviness of the stuff that you're going through. You know what I'm saying? It kind of takes the weight off of you, right?
Right.
So I think that when I got older and the same thing was the same thing was happening, I kept telling myself, okay, you know, this is okay because, you know, you're just kind of dealing with your problems differently, right? But so tell me, like, how do we kind of tell me how you feel about this? Like, how do we kind of still use, you know, moments of because I still believe in moments of relaxation, you know what I'm saying, like of being able to you know, physically do something that calms you, but at the same time, you know, still like not try to minimize the weight of your issues, you know what I'm saying? So like how do we kind of find an outlet where or I don't know if the question is how do we find outlet to do that. Let me stop talking. Go ahead.
No, I can't formulate it. I'm sitting here processing it because you're saying, like, you know what I mean? How can we still be present in our emotions, but
that's
like,
the word. Okay,
yeah,
my bad for cutting you off. Sorry. Like, no, because you used that word like 3 times, right? And it's funny because I feel like that's confirmation from the Holy Spirit, man. Because I've been wanting to kind of teach on that lately. It's been in my spirit because what I've noticed is that with all these outlets, right, or coping mechanisms, they're not really. I don't really, because outlets supposed to have a positive connotation, so it's more like coping mechanisms, right? They don't sound, they're not super positive, right? But with them all, I've noticed that my ability to be present was not good, man. Yeah, and I think even porn does that, because when you have a porn addiction, man, it really stops you from being present. Even when you're not thinking about porn, like it's just like I remember I had developed this thing where I heard Chris Rock talk about it too, and I was like, dang, that's me. I had developed this thing where I couldn't even look people in their eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like I just you kind of feel shifty, like you can't. It's weird. You know what I'm saying? You kind of because porn is like something that's always done in the dark, so you kind of almost feel guilty all the time. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're kind of like walking around with that shame all the time, right? So I can't even really look people inside of their eyes. You know, I'm pretty sure probably some conversation with me would probably shift it, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking down a whole lot, or you know what I'm saying, or looking around a lot. And it's not because I'm lying. It's just because I feel uncomfortable being so close. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel there you go. I feel uncomfortable connecting. You know what I'm saying? Like now I feel uncomfortable connecting with people. So yeah, all right. So being present, like how can we get better at being present?
I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can be present. I've been struggling with this. I'm going to be honest. Lately, I have. There was something traumatic that I went through last year, and I'm just going to be open. So I cried.
Yeah, don't leave me alone out here, man.
Yeah, I won't be. You know, I won't be leaving you alone in your transparency. I'm gonna just be real too. You know. And this, I was gonna say that goes into healthy outlet. But I was crying a lot last night, and I literally like couldn't necessarily pinpoint exactly where my anxiety was coming from to cause that emotion. But I like started just bawling, crying.
Really?
You know,
Didn't know why.
Yeah, and not even really knowing exactly where it came from. I just know the time period that I started feeling not present, and I was crying a lot because I'm a very present person with people, and I haven't been feeling present for like maybe a year and a half. Like consistently, I feel like I go about my day like really trying to force myself, you know what I mean, to go through the day. And I have been guilty of the things that we're talking about, you know what I mean, with well, specifically like weed and weed pens, stuff like that. Like you are not dealing with your emotion when you're saying, well, okay, let me get a little bit high because that makes me feel a little bit lighter right now. Like I don't want to feel the heaviness of what I feel. But then there's a reliance on not wanting to feel that way. You don't want to feel that way so bad that you're like, I'll do anything, you know, to like not feel like that. Like I don't like that feeling. And most people are very uncomfortable with heavy feelings. It doesn't feel good, like to feel. You know what I mean? So people easily, that's why it's so easy to go into a bad habit, because it's like, I want to feel this way. So anything that can make me feel good, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like they want to fix the problem, but that's not fixing the problem. You know what I mean? Now you're training your mind to operate in a state of intoxication just for you to be able to process things, which you're not really fully processing because you're not really fully feeling them. So it's not
you can't fully process it if you don't really
you can't really feel the emotion. So, you know, and I'm talking to myself right now too, you know what I mean? Because I just really need, you know what I mean? I'm working through it. So, but you can, like, I feel like talking is so healthy, like what we're doing right now, because what we're doing right now is being very honest and transparent about the heavy things that we do feel, you know what I mean? And we're able to talk about them. and we're able to think through them and process them rationally. You know what I mean?
I think it's also important to be able to do that in the respective positions that we are in life too. You know what I'm saying? Like with what we do for a living. I don't, people in, bro, it's not a whole lot of other pastors that get real. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that's not common, you know what I mean? Or even therapists walking around, you know, like, yeah, this is what I'm dealing with. You know, I'm dealing with like very bad habits and this and that. You know what I mean? Like nobody's used to hearing that. They're just like, oh no, she's in the helping position. But I'm like, but I'm hurting too. You know what I mean? You can say that as a minister. We can say that as a therapist that, you know, we're hurting too. So I think talking about it is really healthy. And not to sit here and try to preach and push therapy, but the only reason I'm pushing somebody to talk to is because when you're in that space, your things are coming up that you don't even realize. When you have like a comfortable space to talk, it's like, these are things I'm dealing with that I didn't even know like I was battling with. And that makes sense of why I became addicted to this or that. I've been dealing with so much. But when you talk to somebody, it means a lot. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I have young adult men that I work with every day, that I talk to every day. And they tell me all the time. One of them just told me yesterday, huge long paragraph. He said, I've never like told anybody this. You're the first person I trusted like this. You're the first person I told anything to. And I just think that people don't feel comfortable in the space to talk. It could be for a lot of different reasons. Like you said your family was not an outlet. You went other things, you know, drugs, gangs, things like that. You found a sense of belonging in other things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a positive thing, but a lot of people do that. So a lot of people are like, nobody wants to listen to me, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear what I got to say. My family didn't talk to each other, so why would I talk? But I think talking is really healthy. And then honestly, just like being in this, like turn everything off, you know what I mean? Like turn your phone off. Be in a state of just like just listen to sounds and be in a state of relaxation. And I know that sounds so like, I don't know, but.
Oh, dang. It paused just for a second. I'm not sure why. All right, you guys. I don't know if okay. Oh, okay. You back.
Like, is it my phone? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I've learned that being by yourself and thinking through things, but like in a state of peace, not when like you're on social media and you're irrationally posting things or whatever because you're mad. Not when you're just talking to somebody, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just need to be by yourself. And that's the scariest thing that people, because like you just said, when you're by yourself, these addictions, that's when these addictions take place, like the drinking, the porn, all of that. However, you have to get in a state of like putting everything away. Like, you know what? I'm gonna put my phone in this room. I'm gonna put my computer in this room. There's no access to the porn. There's no access to the drinks. I just need to like either be by myself and just listen to sounds and just process, like, what am I thinking about right now? How am I feeling? Do we ever ask ourselves, like, how does my body feel? Am I tense? Why am I tense? Things like that. And just really pay attention to you. The reason why we are so fixated on other things is because we don't pay attention to ourselves, because we don't want to. You know, we don't want to give that attention to us, you know? So you have to. Mm-hmm. You have to try to pay attention to, like, you, your body, how you're feeling, how you're thinking, all of that. And someone just said music. I totally like mood music. Yeah. Like nice lo-fi hip hop sound, just music to just like let the feelings flow, let the feelings come out, just allow yourself to feel, but you have to allow it. Because if an outlet is one thing, like a coping mechanism, but you were just talking about being present in your feelings, and to be present, you have to feel. So allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. It's okay that you're
dang, that's the key to being present, huh? To feel?
Yeah, you have to feel it. It's like, ooh, that does not feel good. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, ooh, I'm so angry. But that's why I like to write, because I'm like, ooh, I need to let this out somewhere. Like, I can't talk to somebody right now, but I need to be like, I am so angry because this, you know, this happened, whatever. But like, you have to process the way that you feel. It could be mood music. It could be taking a bath and just thinking. It could be writing, but you have to process your feelings, or therapy. And if it's not therapy, and if you don't want to go to a therapist, have somebody that you trust and talk to, but you have to deal with your feelings, because what happens is people get numb to not dealing. They get used to just not dealing with their feelings and finding all these other outlets. And then that leads to the overdosing and all of those different things, So my biggest advice is deal with the feelings, in whatever way you feel is best. If it's not talking, then just think. If it's not thinking, then just write. But please put everything away. Like, that's my biggest thing, because we are so fixated on technology or talking to somebody or the social media world or whatever, or even parenting. Like, find a time where your kids are asleep and you're just by yourself and you could just be with yourself. Pay attention to yourself.
As a parent, you feel like alone time is almost, it's so few and far in between.
Exactly. Woo, it is.
like you know how the last night when we were kind of planning this, and I was saying, like, my kids sleep a little bit later, and like even this morning, like after I had woke up, I heard my son make a noise, and I was like, no, like, don't wake up yet. Not yet.
That's crazy.
Right, and that ain't just about the live. I just don't want him to be awake yet. Not yet. Give me some time.
Yeah.
I see somebody said outlets should be used as a getaway that allows you to process and cope and deal with issues. So I'm gonna say an outlet that that helps me out a whole lot, and I don't see it typically being called an outlet. And I think both of us will probably agree with this, right? With what we do. When you're honest with people, right? Because you brought up being honest with people about your problems. A lot of times the space that creates, I guess it probably depends on the reality of the friendships that you have. But a lot of times the space that creates inside of me, it brings me to a place of helping somebody else with their stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to be honest. And I think that's like probably the mystery of these gifts that me and you have, is that like I feel best when I'm helping somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like I like that. I get so much energy in doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And sometimes I'll be like, how come I don't have that same energy for me? You know what I'm saying? to do the same thing for myself. What do you have any idea of what do you think that is?
So let me just tell you. So this is what my therapist actually just told me last week. She
You're
said,
a therapist with a therapist. You are.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, by the way.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, let me just say, I just need that. You know what I mean? And like I said, I like stuff out. And so if you're in a helping position, I encourage you to have a mentor, a therapist, or somebody. I really do. Because you take a lot. You really, But for me, with the only thing with that is because I'm just like you. I'm like, I get so filled up by helping people, and I get so happy. However, you have to create a boundary, because we are a lot of times, we create such a space for people, it can get very heavy. So even though you're helping and you feel great to help, what I do, this is just me, I think I am an empath, so I overly feel like I really feel what people are feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. And so with that, it's just like you have to put a boundary and say, like I can be helping people, but even with that, I have to have some downtime from doing that, because what I do is I'll help people all hours of the night and I don't get to me. And I don't get to me. But sometimes I want that, you know what I mean? Because I want to escape getting to me. So just help, you know what I mean? But then I'm like, ooh, then I feel depressed.
Hey, that could be an escape. Don't say that. Don't say that could be a mechanism too. Don't say that. Now I got to think if I do that.
You know what I mean? Because it can be. So the careful thing that you want to do is not make that an escape where you're really not dealing with what you need to deal with. You have to put a boundary on even the helping people role, because you're still in a position of giving yourself, but not giving to yourself. You know what I mean? Although God does give us revelations through what we're talking about right now, like I'm getting so much from this conversation right here, and we're hopefully, helping in the space to help and share. And I am getting a lot from it. So I see what you're talking about. But if you don't put a boundary even on that, then it becomes unhealthy, because all you're fixated on doing is doing things outside of yourself and never getting to yourself. So that was just
sit alone. It's like, okay, what? I don't even know what to say to me now.
Exactly. Like, ooh, yeah, exactly.
I see someone say, I've been someone that always helped and gave advice to family. Then one day I found myself in self-destruct with no one there. I usually don't speak on my problems. I feel I'm a man. All right, because I feel I'm a man. All right, can I speak to that real quick, just from a male perspective? I hear people say this all the time. Like I was just recently watching an interview about Lamar Odom. You know who Lamar Odom is? And so he he was talking about some of his coping mechanisms, right? Like we know he went through a whole lot with addiction and stuff like that. And then I noticed something. Like he was saying that but when he had a child that passed, and he said that and that was years ago, and he said probably to this day, probably still never cried about it. And I was like, that hit me, and I was like, dang, like, you know what I'm saying? You lost a child and you still never cried about it. And then he was like, I just kind of felt like, being the man in the family, like they can't see me on my knees, they can't see me weak like that, right? And then let me talk about Jesus real quick. You know what I'm saying? Like a scripture that they really like mess with me in the book of Hebrews. It says that like Jesus used to sit and offer loud cries to God because he knew that God can save him from death, right? And so I like seeing that makes me feel like, okay, we got this freaking manhood thing messed up. You know what I'm saying? Like we think it's strength to not show emotion, but I think that's weakness. You know what I'm saying? Like it's actually like you have to be strong enough to be weak. It sounds weird, you know what I'm saying? But when I think about to me, strength is kind of like in the same category of effort. You know, like you know what takes strength when you know what takes effort. Right. It takes effort to cry. You know what I'm saying? Like for a man, like it takes effort to get there. It takes less effort to just throw it in the back of your mind and be like, I'm not gonna deal with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna keep this space. I'm not gonna move. You know what I'm saying? Like that also takes effort, but it's a different kind of effort. It's like it reminds me of like the same kind of effort that it takes to not feel compassion, the same kind of effort that it takes to hold a grudge. You know what I'm saying? It's like that same type of energy that you use to not cry. But I feel like the energy that you use to be weak, that mess hurts. You know what I'm saying? Like that it takes a lot to really just be weak. You know what I'm saying? And just let it all go. So I actually think that, I know right now in culture, they call it toxic masculinity. You know what I'm saying? But I think just overall, like we really got to get to the idea of saying that like the strength of the man is actually the ability to show his weakness. You know what I'm saying? Like to show his vulnerability. Because what I started to discover was what I'm creating is a people, like if I'm being strong for my family, right? So what I'm creating is like I'm creating this relationship with them to show that I can't relate. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, because what I'm really saying is I don't relate to y'all feeling like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I can push through this, right? And I feel like I'm doing it for them, but am I really helping them? You know what I'm saying? Because now I'm teaching them to not feel pain. You know what I'm saying? To not allow the pain to come through, right? So can you talk about kind of this allowance of grief? Like how can we allow grief to happen? Because when I was praying about doing this live with you, I feel like one of the things that God was kind of putting in my spirit is that, like, and I see the same thing in my life, is that you really have a hard time processing grief. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
and if you have a hard time processing grief, you kind of think that that happens in one moment, but like how you talked about a habit, that becomes a habit of not knowing how to process grief. You know what I'm saying? That becomes like part of your lifestyle. So I believe that, like, that is one of the root causes of my depression, is that I don't know how to really process grief like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I used to be really, I'm getting a little better at feeling pain now. One thing I got into gospel music. That's why I be asking people for new songs, because I like to cry now. You know what I'm saying? Like when I first was like, oh, I can cry. Okay, I wanted to cry every day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but yeah, how can we process grief? You know, like what's the best way to kind of process grief?
My biggest thing to say, especially to, well, this is young men and women, but we work with young adult men, so I can see what exactly everything you're saying. I can't feel it because I'm not a man, but I can see it. One thing I've learned is becoming emotionally self-aware. So with men, you know, you guys are generally in society, it teaches men to, it's like inhumane. It's like men are human, but they want you guys to just kind of like, you know, be protectors and, you know, go-getters and head of the household and fathers and all of these things without, you know, showing the journey. They just want you to just do what you need to do and get it done right. And that's it. Men can have more of a space to feel. But we're both human and we both feel. You know what I mean? And so it's like, why can't you open the space for everybody to feel? Because vulnerability, like you said, takes the most energy, effort, and transparency. Why are we saying that being vulnerable is a weakness when it's actually the biggest strength, especially for men and to man? Men are always trying to figure things out themselves. And it's like when you actually have somebody else that you could talk to that can relate, like you said, it just makes a world of difference. But going back to the emotional self-awareness, recognize, like, there's feeling categories. I'm just be very basic, like happy, sad, hurt, love, all of that, right? A lot of times I hear people say, especially young men, like, well, I don't know necessarily if I feel love, or I don't know if I feel this, or I don't, like, they don't know. They're like, I don't know what that feels like or what that is. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So let's talk about words in that category. You know what I mean? What makes you feel appreciated? What makes you feel this? What makes you feel? And then they'll start naming things. You know what? Like, I do like when my family's proud of me. So I'm like, okay, so you like words of affirmation? Yeah, I like when they tell me they're proud of me. Okay, so you know what makes you happy? And we start with the easier things, like what makes you happy? What makes you feel good? But then we go to like, well, what irritates you? Well, it bothers me when somebody's always telling me that I'm doing something wrong, or when somebody, so feelings of inadequacy, that bothers you. Feelings of, you know, but men, a lot of times when they're depressed, they express it through anger, you know, which is a secondary emotion. And all they know is like, I'm pissed, I'm angry, I just want to retreat. I mean, every man shows it differently. Some might lash out, some might like isolate, you know, they show it differently, but all they know is they're angry. And they don't really call it depression. They just, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm stressed out, you know? And you have to be able to ask yourself, underneath that anger, what are you feeling? Are you stressed out because you feel like you're inadequate and you cannot provide right now? Are you hurt because you didn't have the guidance for that long? You know, like maybe you grew up in a single parent household and you didn't feel like you had the guidance that you needed. But I feel that sometimes people are scared to admit, like, this is actually why I'm hurt. This is actually why they don't like to blame and all of that. But I'm like, say it. Why are you hurting? Because you're not going to fix that lashing out or that isolation or stonewalling, it's called, where you are in a relationship, but then you like isolate so much that you don't communicate at all with your partner. You could do this for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but it's like, I don't want to talk to nobody. And do you really want to be in that position, to create dissension and disconnect in your relationship? Or do we want to learn how to ask yourself, like, why am I so upset? You know what I mean? What am I hurt? Am I sad about something? Because those are what's underneath the anger. And when you ask yourself that and you come to the realization of like, that's why I've been hurting. You know what I mean? It's like a revelation to you. And it's like, it's okay to admit that. Because now that I'm hurting so much, I can start healing. You know what I mean? But you guys, men, I've seen a pattern of like, we just got to get it done. We got to get it done. We got to keep going. We got to get it done. But it's like, how can you keep going and operating on empty or operating on angry or operating on, stressed out or operating on depressed? You know what I mean? Like,
and that's what we be
operating
doing.
functionally depressed or functionally angry, but it's like, but you're not happy. Do you want to be? And
it's so funny. You know how many dads I know are functionally angry?
Dads, moms, and I'm not talking to the men. I don't mean to just say it to the men. I was just speaking to your comment about men, but women too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to operate like that, but some people feel like they have to. That I have to operate on like the strength of not showing my emotions. But I'm like, actually, the strength is showing your emotions and starting to heal. Because if you don't, it's going to come out in ways you don't want it to, and you're not going to realize it. So the strength is just be aware of why do you feel that way? And really, and even last night when I was telling you I was crying, I had to really ask myself, like, why do I have such a heavy cry right now? Why am I so in pain? Oh, wait a minute. These things happen to me, and I'm angry. I'm hurt. So I feel like I have low worth, things like that. So just really getting to the root of like the insecurities that might be there that might make you feel those ways and act those ways.
Right. Okay. So because I don't want to keep you forever. I could, but I don't want to. All right. So let's just get a little more personal one more time. So you kind of spoke on like, okay, the way you were feeling last night, and so you said that you did eventually start finding connections to your feelings, right?
Right.
And did that just kind of take just sitting there for a while, kind of running through your imagination? You know what I'm saying? Like it kind of took just being there and sitting in it and figuring out, like that's kind of how it happened.
Yes.
Or did you have to go through other paths to like look at stuff?
So it goes with what I was saying before, where like you're emotional, but you're asking yourself like, what do I need right now? Like I'm so in pain. I feel like I'm missing. And then I'm like, well, I feel like inadequate. I feel like unloved, and I feel like a low worth, I feel worthless. You know what I mean? I need to know that I'm worth it. I need to know that, like, so I start thinking, I try to train my mind to positive self-talk, but like, look at you as a mother, look at you as an encourager, look at you. And I have to force myself to tell my mind that, and to say that this situation that happened to you was not because of anything that you are or anything that you did, but it happened, and it hurts because you poured into something that ended up being very abusive and toxic and things like that. And so I had to recognize this is why I feel so in pain. I've been attached to this. I had a soul tie to something that made me feel all of these ways. But I'm like, the thing is, I have the power to walk forward and say, I know I'm not that. But like, at least I know why I feel this way. At least I know where it came from. Yeah. So I had to sit and just think and be like, you are really in pain, girl. Like to the pit of the bottom of my stomach. Like I was like really in pain, physically crying. And I was like, oh, I'm in a lot of pain. Why am I so hurt right now? Oh, because I'm tired of feeling tired. I'm tired of, feeling depressed all the time. I'm tired of, doing encouraging things, but I don't feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lord, be back. I want myself back. You know what I mean? And at least you can like say it. And like when you say it, it's so, when you're able to be honest with yourself, you start being honest with other people. And sometimes people don't want to be honest with themselves because they don't even want to verbalize that they're in that place. They're like, no, I'm not depressed. No, I'm not. But it's like, be honest. You know what I mean? Like, where are you at? You don't have to be the strong one all of the time. And again, like this is still strength. Like for you to be able to realize this is strength. And so all I needed to do.
The realization is strength itself, right? Yeah, I agree with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The realization is strength itself. So
yeah, I agree with that. I said this other thing too, you know, because you did earlier bring up like what happens with Christians. I'm not gonna lie, man. I don't think that my earliest introduction to Christianity, like when I got into the faith, well, my earliest introduction to Christianity, I got baptized when I was like 8 years old. You know what I'm saying? So nothing changed after that. That change didn't happen until like years later, right? But when my introduction into like trying to follow God, right? And I felt like I kind of met him at this really religious standpoint. You know, somebody called you Ruth. That's dope.
that's my son's dad.
All of them, you know what I'm saying? Free the people. You feel me? Yeah. So I you know, I fell into that this kind of like religious relationship with God. You know what I'm saying? When I call it a religious relationship, like I mean that there was more knowledge about who he was without like the heart of like how he feels.
Right.
You kind of follow where I'm going with that? You know what I'm saying? Like I can say things, I can remember things, right. You know what I'm saying? But the way I feel is kind of separate from that. You know what I'm saying? I don't even get. Here's a weird thing. Like most of us, we don't really have emotional connection, I think, even with our faith, because like
that's good.
Scripture doesn't make me emotional. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Unless I'm reading something that's tearing me up, then I might feel convicted, you know what I'm saying? Or something like that. But now I'm starting to see like some beautiful things in Scripture where I'm like, oh, this make me feel good. You know what I'm saying? And some things that can almost make me feel emotional. But it took me a long time to get there. And so this is my blanket statement that I can get in trouble for. I swear, my introduction to Christianity did not help my depression. It made me more depressed. It made me more depressed.
Yeah.
Like real talk, because I not like in the church culture. Which is the reason why, you know, I push transparency so hard, is because I feel like in the church culture, you know, we're not really transparent. We can say like sin becomes a blanket statement. You know what I'm saying? I can just say sin instead of saying no, like I felt like killing myself. You know what I'm saying? Or no, or no, I hit my wife. You know what I'm saying? Or no, like nobody's really saying. It's so funny because I know that, you know, there was a guy who reached out to me. I mean, who I had a conversation with, that told me that he murdered somebody. You know, and somebody said, AKA fake. Yes, fake. Said that he murdered somebody, and I remember just telling the story to the youth. And, you know, everybody was all like, is he still at this church? You know what I'm saying? Do we need to leave? They wanted to leave. You know, like, are we supposed to? And I know that's an extreme, but it just makes me start thinking like, dang, we really don't give details. And I feel like the healing is really in the details.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Hold on 1 second, DeAndre. My phone's on 1%, so I don't want it to go out on you. So I'm gonna go get a charger real quick. Okay. Sorry. This is it.
Okay. All right, for sure. I saw it. Mark, I saw it. You guys give Alana just a second to come back into the live. I hope you guys are enjoying this, man. This is you know, therapeutic for me. So I hope that it's giving you the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I hope that it's also therapeutic for you. Some of these topics, I feel like, oh, your JoJo's father. You know, nice to meet you, man. You know what I'm saying? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. She is my son's mom. She's an awesome woman, and I'm so glad to see her in these intellectual conversations. Proud of her. Yeah. You said I have a question when she comes back. It's wait a few seconds, and we'll take that. I would say actually send that question into the inbox. I won't try to answer it. We'll just leave it for her for when she comes back. And then that'll be the last question, and we'll go ahead and head out of here. Yeah, you said healing is in the details. Yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Let me hit the light. Bam! You know what I'm saying? I had to scoop my chair over. The healing is in the details. I gotta write that down. That's one of my notes I gotta take away from this conversation. The healing is in the details, for real. All right, go ahead. Oh, she never sent it. Okay, somebody did have a question for you. So, you know, I think so like I was saying was, you know, I feel like it didn't help that environment didn't really help my, but I was teaching you know, classes, and even when I started teaching classes, it was not helping my depression. You know what I'm saying? It was not helping my depression at all, and it's because I had this this kind of relationship with God where I feel like it ended up as a teacher, ended up being more knowledge over like the heart connection. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like you. When people tell me their problems, I feel it. You know what I'm saying? I can feel their pain literally. You know what I'm saying? And of course, if you're not careful with that, they just adds on to your depression. You know what I'm saying? It can just add on. It can just pile up, right? So definitely that. And so I noticed that, you know, it's just probably been like in the last few years that I've kind of made this head-heart connection, you know what I'm saying, with my faith. So and okay, I did want to answer this. I said we'll answer this question, and then that will be out on that. So I just want to say this. So how do we become comfortable with the details?
That's so good. That's so good. Because it's hard, because what you're talking about is in an environment where everybody's more concealed. They conceal their details, and even a lot of times their own problems. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to be transparent. You know what I mean? Because you feel that people are looking at you a specific way or judging you or things like that. The biggest thing, what I learned is like, for me, being transparent with others, being transparent with others has done the most, has been the most beneficial to anybody.
Yeah, me too.
You know?
Me too.
It's like when you see what God is doing with your transparency, mm-hmm. like be real with it. And I think it really encourages others. So it's okay if you have to be the first one. I know it's hard, but if you're at church and you have to be the first one to be like, look, you know, I'm going through X, Y, and Z, or like you said, a porn addiction, or, you know, codependency, or X, Y, and Z. It's like you might get faces, or people might be shocked because they don't hear it in the church setting, but it's like, this is what I'm dealing with, though.
Yeah.
And I you know, need deliverance from it, have been delivered from it, but let me just tell you, because I think that's going to free so many people when you actually are real about what you dealt with, because so many people won't say what it is they're dealing with, but so many people are going to feel so related to that's really going to change the course of the way they think about that thing, because you said you were going through it. And it's like, wow, like, because what I'm realizing about a lot of people is, or people that I work with, they say that they assume that other people aren't going through the same thing. So they're like, well, I don't really want to talk to anybody.
And as soon as you open your mouth, you find out, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not alone. What? You know, it was so interesting because one time I was at this women's thing, and long story short, she was saying something in the testimony. She was, because I was engaged previously and all of that, and my engagement ended and on my own terms or whatever, but like I was still really sad about it, you know, the fact of the loss, grieving the loss of what could have been and blah, 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 right? And she said the exact same thing. She went up on the mic and said that, and I stood up and was like, you know what? Like, thank you. Who goes up in church and says their exact story? You know what I mean? I'm like, thank you. That really does free people. So anyway, just be real about what it is. Don't worry about the responses you're gonna get or whatever, you know, from people. God is gonna use those details to free somebody, because I'm pretty sure somebody else's details before freed you, you know, about something. So be real about yours, you know what I mean? And I'm learning that. I'm learning to not pay attention to the facial expressions and all that. It's like, Lord, okay, let me just say what I got to say. People gonna react how they react, but somebody in here is meant for somebody, you know? So, you know, let's be confident in that.
All right, so let me get to this thank you so much for that. And then we get to this last question, and then I'll let you go. Okay, so somebody said, to my wife, she said, for high functioning depressed individuals, we talked about that a little bit earlier. What are ways to know what that looks like, and how do we go about starting to approach someone who has the symptoms of someone who is a high functioning depressed person? So let's start with the first part. What are some ways to know what that looks like? What are some of the ways that you've seen people function, high functioning depression? I mentioned it earlier. And I remember you saying like you kind of familiar with it. What are some of the ways that I know for me it kind of looks like on the outside. I'll use myself. When I'm high functioning and depressed at the same time, I can get work done. I'm a little moody. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not like super talkative, and I feel like this is the weird thing. Like some of the things, like some of the same jokes that make me laugh, some of the same comments that, you know, I can have banter with. I'm even in my marriage, you know what I'm saying, with my wife. If I'm high functioning and depressed, them same things irritate me. You know what I'm saying? It's like my personality, my humor is like gone. So I'll say that as one thing. Like your humor is like dead. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I think you don't know how to be present. You know what I'm saying? I'm not present. You know what I'm saying? When I'm like that. So what say you to that? To what is some of what it looks like?
I agree. So high functioning, from what I've seen, high functioning depressed looks like you can perform very well. Like in a school setting, at work, even, you know, sometimes as a parent, it's like you could do everything that needs to get done, but your state of being, it causes like different things, like you said, like irritation, irritability. And when you are alone, you are not happy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you are not okay. Like you don't feel okay. You feel very lonely. You feel very like you might have low feelings of like low self-worth, things like that, low self-esteem, but like you can function in front of other people, you know, very well. Mm-hmm. But that just means that you're able to push yourself to do that, to perform for others.
So it's all performance.
It's like, yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like you don't want to function on performance because you can only do that for so long. That's extrinsic. It's just like, okay, the reward of pleasing people. That's an extrinsic motivation. The reward of pleasing people. And it's like, but you're not happy, you know? Yeah. You can only function off of an extrinsic motivator for so long. Intrinsic, you have to have your own happiness. You have to have your own peace. So high functioning just looks like okay, they can do everything that needs to get done. But because I've had some really high functioning therapy clients, because I work at a workforce readiness program, so I could see that they are like doing super well and they're working. And then when they come into my room, totally different story, because the thoughts that they're dealing with when they're by themselves, when they have to be by themselves, they break down. You know what I mean?
And work is that distraction, isn't it? Right? Like sometimes we work to distract ourselves from it, right?
Exactly. That's where you get the workaholics and like overwork. When you overdo stuff, a lot of times, I'm not saying every time, but a lot of times it's like a distractor. Like you're trying to overdo something to avoid. It's like avoidance, you know?
Man.
But still high function
stuff is like okay, yeah. It is though. And so the next part of that question is, how do we approach someone who is high functioning? So I'm pretty sure you said you work with people like that. So what kind of is your approach to them when you've spotted it? You can see that that's what they're going through. Like how do you open up those kind of conversations?
My biggest thing is I just have them talk. And I know it sounds so simple, you know, but like talk about it. You know what I mean? You're so used to distracting yourself so much from.
Is there a way to kind of tell them, like, or is there a way to? All right, so let's say if some of your spaces are, you know, well, I guess if you, because you said you work at a work readiness program.
Yeah, workforce readiness.
Oh, okay. So let's say if it's not a space where like we know that this is what we're coming from, you know. So let's say if it's a family member, and you had to, and you saw it and you wanted to approach them, like how do you start that conversation? Like what would you?
That's
kind of hard.
No, it's actually funny that you said that, because I had a conversation. I'm just being real, but I had a conversation with my dad last week and my mom, both of them, but like separately. But like my family has always been somebody that like we can function very well, but we don't talk about our feelings to each other. Like in terms of like, I talk about my feelings, I do, but not the way we feel about what was done to us or whatever. So I've
seen families be having that.
It's like, you know, so I just asked him. I mean, the way I asked was just like, okay, you know, so we were talking, and then I said, how often do you, you know, talk about how you feel about things? And he's like, you know, I talk, you know, I can, because he's extroverted like me. I said, yeah, you talk. I said, but how often do we talk about like the way we actually feel, you know? And when you ask people certain questions, they're like, I guess I don't. Or you ask like, how are you today?
That same face, like,
yeah, I guess I really don't talk about my feelings, you know? And then the floodgates open in that conversation. By the way, that was a really good healing conversation, but I just asked certain questions. Like, I know we talk about, but do we really talk about what's bothering us? Do we talk about like heart problems, you know, things that are going on with us? And he's like, no. So then he's like, let's talk about it. And usually with other people, I say the same thing. I'm like, how are you today? Like, you know what I mean? I noticed you're a little bit more quiet. It's like, yeah, I'm okay. I don't know. I'm just dealing with some stuff. And it's like, okay. So then I take them aside and we talk about it and stuff like that. But like, you have to ask the right questions, because I don't think people are stopping themselves and saying, how do I really feel right now? Because they don't want to. They want to be so busy. They don't want to focus on that. Yeah. But you just have to ask the right questions and check on them. I think one thing that a high functioning depressed person doesn't assume is that people are going to check on them because they're performing so well, they're doing so well. So they don't assume that somebody's actually going to take the time out and see, like, how are you? So ask people
I know I've done it because I don't want nobody to check on me. I'm doing good, y'all. If y'all see I'm out here working, don't ask me the question.
Exactly, but sometimes it hits you when somebody's like, you know, are you okay? Or I've been praying for you. Sometimes I'm like, wow, what's going on? You know, like, you know something about me? No, but then I start talking when people start taking their time out to ask me more questions. I'm like, I can't do nothing but be real. You know what I mean? And so I think you just have to talk more and be more aware of like your friends and check on them and be like, how was your day today? Is there anything I can do for you today? Is there anything I could pray for you for? Whatever. But like, people aren't used to being asked that, especially if they look like they're doing good, you know?
That's why we do the text message of the month here, because I know people aren't used to every text message that I've sent, like when I'm like, is there any decisions that you need me to pray for, or like, how has your how have you been this week mentally, stuff like that. Every time I start asking people questions like that, they be like, dang, nobody never asked me that before. You know what I'm saying? Dang, I never, you know what I'm saying? So I think it is like, so it's this kind of, I guess it's kind of the same thing that, you know, I teach this in marriage counseling too. Like when you're trying to, you know, really find out what your spouse is going through individually, is that you ask non-accusatory questions. You know what I'm saying? Like you ask questions, but without accusation. You know what I'm saying? Because the problem with marriage is, that's why we argue so much, is because we don't know how to ask questions without accusations. Like, you know what I'm saying? The questions become personal. It's personal because, like, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to say how you make me feel instead of me just looking at you as an individual. You know what I'm saying? Trying to figure out what's wrong with you. So, right, so
Really?
I think it's the same thing, right?
That's good, but it's not even just in marriages. You're so right. Like sometimes people are so used to seeing somebody happy or somebody a certain way. It's kind of accusatory when it's like, well, what's wrong with you today? Like, how come you're not?
That feels funny. Like, what you mean?
Exactly. So that was such a good point you made. It's like just ask an open-ended question that shows that you care about them. That it's not about how you feel about how they're acting, but like how are they feeling? You know, that's good. That's so important.
Yeah. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? So much. I believe a whole lot of healing happened. You know, I have this up on YouTube by the end of the day. I'm gonna share the link with you too. And you know, let's continue to do this. You know what I'm saying? So 2 weeks, we good? We good? Can we do this?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you everybody who joined, who asked questions.
I meant to shout a lot of people out in the beginning that I know. I'm sorry, but thank you everybody who's still here.
Yeah, me too. I was like, man, I wanted to say some names, but I was like, man, this is they know they here. You know what I'm saying? We had to get into this, right? So thank you guys for joining us. We're hoping to keep this going as long as, you know what I'm saying, the Lord says so. While we're in this season, let's do this. Yes, everybody who's on, if you still are on your phone, I'm about to literally get off here and hop on a podcast that's about to go live. So the link is in the bio of this page, and you can hop on and you can join us. It probably won't be as heavy as this. But we'll have some good conversations though. I don't want y'all to be sad all day.
I'll be there. I will be there. I'm so excited. Now I get to watch.
All right, love y'all. All right, love you, Alana. I'll see you soon.
Love y'all. Bye.
Bye.